Hey guys, John Jr. here, bringing you guys another Pokemon video. Today, I'm going to be discussing moveset changes for currently existing Pokemon in Scarlet and Violet. This is going to be spoiler-free as far as new Pokemon go, so if you don't want to know new movesets for old Pokemon, go ahead and click off this video, but be sure to leave a like before you do, and I really appreciate you. So, the gist of this video is just going to be talking about my thoughts, a singles competitive player. We're not going to look at a doubles perspective because I very rarely play VGC. Although I want to play a little bit more this generation, I have knowledge on the singles metagame, so we're going to be talking about these moveset changes compared to that, and there are some massive ones. By the way, did you know only about 25% of you guys that watch my video are subscribed? So go ahead and go down there and make sure you are subscribed before we watch any more of this amazing video. So there are a lot of changes to talk about. We have a paste bin that you can find down in the description below. Careful of the comments because there are a few spoilers that I thankfully already knew, but you might not know already. So we're gonna go ahead and start from the top here. So the main thing, like the most important and crazy change in this metagame, is the fact that Volcanion is the only Pokemon that learns Scald. Now there is not a single other Pokemon besides Volcanion at the moment that learns Scald, which is crazy. Think about this: Suicune, Milotic, Pokemon like that really benefit from getting that 6% extra chip on Pokemon. Burn in general is going to be a lot harder to come by now without Scald. Scald is one of the best, it was one of the best moves in the game because it was so widely distributed. Burn is just so, simply just so good because of the attack cut in half as well as the 6%. And then of course the fact that Burn is 30% on Scald is just ridiculous. But here we are in a meta where Scald is no more, which really hurts some Pokemon like I said, Suicune, Milotic, Gastrodon, things like that. They're really gonna miss Scald like quite a bit, and I think it'll become very apparent. Even like Toxapex. Toxapex is a Pokemon that really appreciated Scald. Toxapex sucks now, by the way. The effect that losing Scald has on the metagame, specifically Draft League, is crazy. There are a lot of water types that are gonna be undervalued severely because of this, because Scald gave a lot of water types some form of utility because they were able to status the opponent and maybe not get set up on like you could put Scald on your Scizor, or Scald on your Swampert for your Scizor, for instance, and then Scizor would kind of be deterred from setting up in your face. But now, why is Scizor not going to Swords Dance in your face? You know what I mean? There's just little things like that, which Scizor lost some moves that it's not going to set up in Swampert space anymore, but we'll talk about that later. The next big thing that I want to talk about is Hail got reworked and it's now Snow, which is basically Sandstorm, except no damage. It's for ice types, and ice types defense is 1.5 times instead of the split that from rock types from Sandstorm. So very interesting, a much needed buff in my opinion. It hurts a couple of Pokemon, like my buddy Amo loves Ice Cube, and it hurts that because of the chip damage. It doesn't really get that anymore, but I think overall this defense boost is going to be crazy. And with Pokemon like Cetitan, who I do know the stats for, not going to go into in this video, Cetitan's very good, and this specific like weather boost, defense boost, he's going to really benefit from that. And even just like sweepers like Bear Tick are going to really benefit from this defense boost. Now we're going to go generation by generation. There are a lot of other things like a lot of different tutor moves like Flip Turn and stuff kind of got snapped, other than mons that learn it naturally. Like Scorching Sands is pretty much done away with by the looks of it. Triple Axel, I don't see anything that gets Triple Axel. There are a lot of moves like Grassy Glide, things like that. Like Pokemon just do not get those anymore, it seems like. And I wonder if that's because they're removing them, or it can't be because they're removing them, because some Pokemon still do get them, and like right here, Grassy Glide is nerfed from 70 to 60, so they're probably just going to be in the DLC if I had to guess. So going Pokemon by Pokemon, or generation by generation, the big stuff in Kanto, Hisuian Arcanine, all the Hisuian Pokemon got released. Hisuian Arcanine has Head Smash with Rock Head, which is really nice. Also got Extreme Speed, Close Combat, Psychic Fangs, Morning Sun. So that Pokemon is actually going to be kind of usable as long as he's fast. I actually don't know his speed stat off the top of my head, but if he's fast, that's actually a pretty good Pokemon. Slowbro and Slowking got severely nerfed. Not only did they lose Scald, which was very important for those Pokemon, but they also lost Teleport. That is crazy. So apparently, I don't know how true this is, only the Rolls line, so Gardevoir and Gallade, get Teleport now, which is really silly in my opinion that they just changed Teleport to be usable, and then they're just like, alright, now nothing gets Teleport. I'm sure this will change post-home, but the fact that nothing gets it right now is just really silly to me. Slowbro specifically lost quite a bit because of that, but apparently Slowking Galar got a lot of things that makes it still good. Like apparently it has a new form of momentum. I have no idea if Slowbro has that new form of momentum or not. So Slowbro definitely got nerfed. Apparently Slowking Galar is just ridiculous now. I have no idea. Gengar lost Sludge Wave. I'm assuming it's just simply not a TM in this generation. It does still get Sludge Bomb. I can confirm. Talked about that with Owen, but it gets T-Spikes now. Apparently hazards are super distributed this generation. You're gonna come to see Gengar getting T-Spikes, that's really nice. You can get a T-Spike up and Gengar has a little bit more utility, which it was kind of lacking otherwise. It had like Will-O-Wisp disable, might have had knockoff, I have no idea, but a little bit more utility with T-Spikes is really, really nice. And Scyther, the Scyther line, which includes Cleavor and Scizor and Scyther, all get close combat now, which is transferred from PLA, which in my opinion was kind of obvious that they would do that, because why would you not transfer something that they literally just got? There will be some Pokemon later that make that kind of like a paradox. They lose moves they just got, which is really silly. But Scyther, however, lost Dual Wing Beat because, you know, it's a tutor move, that one makes sense, but it also lost Bug Bite. So some of Scizor's SD sets are going to kind of blow now, and I think Scizor also lost Roost. I have no idea if that means Cleavor lost Roost, but so that's another crazy thing that I need to go into. Roost is not a TM. Again, this was the same thing in early Gen 8, I think, where Roost was not a TM. So any Pokemon that did not learn it naturally did not learn it, and Scizor is one of those Pokemon, and that is just like ridiculous. Like Scizor is a lot of Scizor's really good sets are just nerfed now because of the fact that it doesn't get Roost. A lot of other stuff for Generation 1 is just, as far as singles goes, it's a lot of losing Toxic, losing Defog. A lot of things lost Defog, because I assume that's not a tutor move, which is going to be really big considering they gave hazards to every Pokemon. And also, boots are not yet confirmed in the game. So this is going to be an extremely hazard stacky metagame, which is something that I'm really looking forward to because I quite enjoy hazards. But so Defog getting snapped is kind of crazy. Not snapped, just not as distributed. In Generation 2, a big one that I'm super excited about, Quagsire finally gets Stealth Rocks. It also gets Spikes, and for some reason, I assume because of the Paldean form, it gets T-Spikes, which that's just, he is a hazard setting machine now. And honestly, because I'll talk about it later, but Gastrodon also gets Spikes and Stealth Rocks. These Pokemon, Gastrodon, Swampert, Seismitoad, and Quagsire, there's not much separating these four now, because Gastrodon and Quagsire, yes, they're less bulky, but they also have recovery, and Seismitoad and Swampert, their whole thing is that they're bulkier and they hit a little bit harder, but at the loss of recovery. So honestly, all four of these Pokemon are kind of, in my opinion, in my mind, all four of these guys are like kind of on the same wavelength now, like all probably about 12-11 points depending on other moves that they lost, because I know Flip Turn isn't as distributed, so Swampert lost a really big tool there. It also depends on if they get Toxic or not, because we know some Pokemon lost Toxic. I have no idea if these Pokemon would lose Toxic, but if they do, it's like, it's really interesting to see that Gastrodon and Quagsire are kind of like, all the water grounds are like right level with each other now, which is super interesting. Other than that, they kind of did Tyranitar dirty. He got Power Gem, but lost Superpower and High Horsepower. Superpower is the big one there, because that was a really big way for him to like hit Steels, or hit like Snorlax, or like Pokemon like that, Blissey, things like that, that would kind of just come in and sit on it. It losing Superpower isn't crazy, but like, I've definitely ran Superpower a couple times on my Tyranitar, and I'm sure he still gets like Body Press and stuff, but that definitely does hinder Tyranitar a little bit. I wouldn't say a whole lot, but a little bit. Here's another big one. Gardevoir keeps Aura Sphere from PLA, but loses Recover and Ice Beam from PLA, which is so stupid, by the way, because Gardevoir was actually going to be really nice this generation with Recover, and I guess Ice Beam, like, it wasn't necessary. If they got rid of Ice Beam, okay, but the fact that they got rid of Recover is super silly to me, because they just gave it to it. It was actually pretty good Pokemon. It was probably going to be like a 14-pointer with Recover. Like, it was going to be really solid, and then they just took it away for absolutely no reason. That is unbelievably silly to me, but here we are. This is for the Ubers, guys. I'm not a big Ubers guy, but Groudon gets Spikes. Spikes just very much so distributed. Rayquaza gets U-Turn and Stealth Rock for some reason. Why would you give Rayquaza Stealth Rock? I have no idea. But it also lost V-Create, because I assume that was a tutor move. So ups and downs. I'm sure it'll get V-Create once Home comes out, because I'm sure there will be some sort of event to give it V-Create even. But it getting U-Turn makes banded sets so much scarier. Generation 4, we have Gastrodon. Like I said, it actually lost Toxic, which is huge. That is a note there. But I got Stealth Rock and Spike, so it's a hazard setting machine now. No Toxic is really unfortunate, actually. No Toxic and no Scald. That kind of sucks. But the fact that it's a hazard setter now and it has recovery is very nice. Here's one of the biggest ones. Garchomp, it loses Scale Shot, but it gains Spikes and Liquidation. Liquidation, cool for the niche Rotom Heat matchup. That's about all you're ever going to run it for. Getting Spikes gives it so much more utility. It's so cool. It's a double hazard setter now. Stealth Rock and Spikes. You never thought you would have seen that. But losing Scale Shot loses a lot of offensive power, but it's basically just better Gen 7 Garchomp no Z move, I guess. I guess it depends on how we're going to do Terra Captains or whatever it's called. But it gaining spikes is just so unbelievable that you might be able to overlook the scale shot. I don't know. Maybe I'm talking out of my head because spikes is just such a unique move for something like Garchomp, a breaker. And losing scale shot definitely sucks. It still has stab, it still has Dragon Claw, it still has outrage. No way to boost its speed now though, which is definitely unfortunate, but here we are. Cresselia got nerfed for some reason. Nobody knows why. Not one soul complained about Cresselia, except I guess somebody at Pokemon Company might have got swept on the ladder by a Cresselia. They couldn't break it, I guess. They didn't know what taunt was. Arceus is also broken now. It gains a lot of moves. The most important ones are probably DD, Taunt, and Stored Power. It gained a lot of moves though. A lot of stuff happened with the Hisuian Pokemon. Hisuian Samurott can lay spikes with his signature move. Regular Samurott gets Drill Run. Lilligant, its Victory Dance is a physical Quiver Dance. I think that was predicted. Crocodile lost Knockoff. A lot of things lost Knockoff. Knockoff was something that was a move tutor, not as wide distributed apparently. Hisuian Zoroark got nerfed, which is crazy to me because I think that Pokemon is going to not be good. Beartic finally gets close combat. That's my guy. I've been waiting for that one actually. Hydreigon got Stealth Rock for some reason, but also lost Roost and Defog. So the Defog makes sense. The Roost, the Roost hinders it so much. If it just gains Stealth Rock, I would put this like top 3 Pokemon that are revealed in this generation. Like I would think that it's one of the best Pokemon in this game. But without Roost, it loses a lot of viability. Like Life Orb sets are worse. It can't set up as easy. It doesn't get as many switches. Kind of like choice is going to be super common. Unfortunate for my boy Hydreigon, but we do love the fact that he got Stealth Rocks. Another big one is Volcarona lost Roost and Defog. Defog doesn't really matter, but Roost definitely sucks. However, it still gets Morning Sun, so as long as boots are in the game, Volcarona is still going to be pretty good as far as Draft League goes, and probably as far as OU goes now that things like Toxapex suck. However, Heatran is in the deck, so I don't know. The Genies, Enamorus included, all lose Defog, Toxic, and Knockoff, while Landorus gets Taunt, which is really interesting, and I feel like Lando, it lost some viability. Obviously, it loses Knockoff, but it getting Taunt is really big, and once it gets Knockoff after home, this Pokemon is going to once again rule OU. There's only a couple of big ones as far as Gen 6 goes. The biggest one is going to be Greninja. Libero and Protein got nerfed to where it's only the first move that you hit when you're sent out. So if you click U-turn, you turn into a bug, switch out, and you come back in, you can still change types. But if you click Ice Beam, let's say to kill a Salamence, Salamence goes down, you're an Ice type until you switch out. Greninja also got Swords Dance and Liquidation. A little bit too late with the Swords Dance because if you're Protein, which I think is allowable in Draft League now, but I'll talk about that a little bit later, you're going to turn into a pure normal now, which isn't great, but 8 gaining Liquidation is pretty cool. Sylveon, which was actually one of the best fairies in the game, just lost Mystical Fire, so it actually lost its way to hit Steels. So Sylveon is not going to be as good this generation, unfortunately. As far as Gen 7, there's nothing too crazy. Magearna gets Spikes, which is, I don't know why they decided to make Magearna better for whatever reason. Komala lost Last Resort, so goodbye any usage Komala ever would see. Salazzle gets T-Spikes, which is really cool. A fast T-Spiker is always something you love to see. Toxapex lost Knockoff and Skull, so Toxapex is just awful. Recover also went to only 8 PP, so Toxapex is just going to be really bad this generation. Generation 8, there are a lot of interesting things here. So the first one is they completely just neutered Rillaboom. Rillaboom does not have access to Grassy Glide, High Horsepower, or Superpower. He cannot hit Steals, he cannot have priority. He still has U-turn momentum and he still has some viability, but he's like a 12-point Pokemon now. There's a lot that he can't hit and he's a good pivot, but other than that, he's just not offensively there anymore. Cinderace, again, Libero nerfed. It gets Swords Dance, which is super crazy. I don't think Libero Cinderace is going to be allowed. However, I do think SD Pyro Ball normal Cinderace is going to be crazy. Dreadnought gets Shell Smash, so Dreadnought actually might see some usage now, which is great. We love seeing lower tier Pokemon actually have some usage. Toxtricity gets T-Spikes, which is super interesting. Grimmsnarl gets Parting Shot, which is actually really cool, specifically for VGC, I feel like that's going to be cool. I can't talk too much on that, but in singles, it is going to be really nice to be able to get up a screen, then Parting Shot out with Prankster, no less. Urshifu, for whatever reason, decided to get Swords Dance. That Pokemon is not going to be allowed in any universe. I don't see how you could ever allow that Pokemon. Sub-Select SD, it's just... that Pokemon's too much. Ursaluna, his signature move is Ground type Close Combat. Ursaluna is going to be like a 16-point Pokemon. That Pokemon is going to be by far the best new Hisuian Pokemon. Sneasler, however, might be a close second. It has access to U-turn, which is like, it's a fast Toxicroak offensively, and Toxicroak, if it had better stats, would be really good. And Sneasler is Toxicroak with better stats. This Pokemon is going to be really good, has momentum, throw a Life Orb on it, and it's going to be just so good. It gain you momentum, and its dual stabs are so hard to switch into. And the last big one I want to talk about before I talk about the overall overarching meta is going to be Zacian and Zamazenta. Zacian and Zamazenta both got a little bit of a stat nerf, and their abilities only work once per battle. I really think that was tailored more towards VGC than singles, but Zacian might not be the best Pokemon in the game anymore. 170 attack to 150 and only one attack boost a game. I don't know. That's going to be interesting. So overall, my thoughts on these changes is they are doing this. You look at all of these changes, almost every single one is specifically tailored to singles. So I really truly believe they're about to prepare some sort of singles metagame that doesn't necessarily replace VGC, but it goes on alongside VGC at Pokemon Worlds. Because what other reason is there to do all of these singles changes? This just does not affect doubles in almost any capacity. The fact that they are giving out hazards like crazy, and I don't know if boots are there, is music to my ears. I think it's a very healthy change for the meta. I think boots were super unhealthy for the meta, and giving everything hazards, removing defog, you either basically force heavy duty boots if they are there, or you make the meta really, really interesting. You have to play around this. You're gonna have to draft really good defoggers really early. You're gonna have to value these Pokemon, whether it be on the ladder or in draft. It's a really fun sight to see, and I'm really excited for this, what is probably gonna be a chaotic meta. One other that I forgot, and the one that I'm the most excited about, is Spectre gets Draining Kiss, so it can now hit Darks. That Pokemon is going to be crazy. But with all that being said, I think that about does it for my thoughts here. I think that this is going to be a super fun meta. I am very much looking forward to it, at least on Showdown, not necessarily on Wi-Fi, because the 20-minute timer is back. We do not have a LAN timer this time, but that could be a whole nother video. But let me know your guys' thoughts down below. And for now, guys, this has been John Jr. signing off.